Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone is doing well. We are almost through October. This month has just gotten away from me. I can't believe we are almost through October, but we are. A lot of people know that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but it is also Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which not a lot of people talk about. And I think it's something that should be talked about. So this video, I know it's a heavy topic. It's a little, I do makeup videos. So this is definitely a heavy topic for my channel, but I think it's important to talk about and kind of spread awareness. So that's what this video is about. I'm going to hopefully answer some questions, try and answer some misconceptions for people. And then if anybody has any questions, they can definitely leave me a comment down below. For those of you that don't know, I was a victim of domestic violence a few years ago. I'm not currently. I'm in a wonderful relationship now, but I was in almost a 2-year relationship with somebody that was verbally and physically abusive. So I am a survivor of domestic violence. I don't like to use the word victim because I feel like it's saying that I'm still a victim because I'm not currently a victim anymore. I know people do get out of one bad relationship and into another, and it becomes a pattern. So then they're a victim over and over. But I like to use the word survivor a little bit better than victim. But yes, I was a victim of domestic violence. Like I said, I'm not currently. It's not, I feel like domestic violence is something that people don't talk about because there's a lot of shame around it. I know when I got out of my relationship, I was met with a lot of, why did you date that person in the first place? Why were you in the relationship so long? Why didn't you leave sooner? Why didn't you leave when he first hit you? And it's a lot of why didn't you do this, do that, do this, do that? And so you feel embarrassed about that. You feel embarrassed because of the situation you were in. You don't want it to. So there's just a lot of shame. And I feel like people should be met with more support. I did have support when I got out of the relationship, but I was still met with a lot of those questions continuously because people don't understand. And it's one of those things, unless you've been in the situation, you really aren't going to understand. But I'm going to do my very best to try and clear up some things. You'll have to forgive me. I'm in my work clothes. I'm going to go to work in a little bit. But I wanted to get this video out because I think it's important. But there's a psychological breakdown that takes place when you're in those kinds of relationships. And people that are abusers will seek out somebody that has low self-esteem. Somebody with good self-esteem is not going to find themselves typically in an abusive relationship. If they do have good self-esteem to start with, they're not going to have good self-esteem if they stay in the relationship, or they're going to, like, as soon as the first incident happens, they're going to leave. The psychological breakdown, like I said, they seek out people that have low self-esteem to start with because it's easier to take them down further and keep them there versus having somebody with good self-esteem and then chipping that away and breaking it down, if that makes sense. So no, I did not have good self-esteem. There's a little thing that popped up. So I did have bad self-esteem for a long, long time. So that's why it was easy for me to be victimized. Not to say that people with good self-esteem, like I said, it's easier for them to take someone down further than it is to have someone with good self-esteem and then bring them down, if that makes sense. So there's that happens. And then you've got somebody with already bad self-esteem and they make you feel worse. The psychological breakdown that happens is they make you feel like you have all these problems. You're a horrible person. You're crazy. You're this or that, and nobody else is going to want to put up with that but that person. Like, they make you feel like you should be lucky to have me because nobody else is going to deal with your crap because you're awful and terrible and horrible and you're just as bad as me. So why would you, they make you feel like that so that you're like, well, I don't, I'm going to be alone and I don't want to be alone. They make you feel like you can't be alone. You're not going to make it by yourself. You can't take care of yourself. You can't do this. You can't do that. My glasses have a little bit of a glare, so I'll take those off so it's not so distracting. Um, so then there's that. So then you feel like, well, if I can't take care of myself and I'm afraid to be alone, then I might as well just stick it out with this person because this is all I'm going to find. And then they turn it around and make you feel like it's your fault. You did this, and this, so that's why I hit you. Or I wouldn't have hit you if you hadn't done this, and this. So then you're like, well, it's my fault. If I was better, if I do better, these things aren't going to happen. So there's that. They completely break you down. I remember when I got out of the relationship and I wasn't like the person was, like 1,000 miles away, I was never going to see them again. And I was still worried, like, I can't talk about the situation because so-and-so might be mad at me. Or, if I post anything about it, he's going to be mad at me. And then I reached a point, where I was like, if he's mad at me, what do you do? I don't see him. It doesn't matter. But it takes a long time to get to that point. There was still that fear for a good probably year after residual. I would be afraid to do certain things because in the back of my mind, I was worried about him still being mad at me for it. And I feel like the psychological breakdown is really hard for people to understand because you think, why would a rational person stay in a relationship like that? But like I said, they break you down to a point where you're not rational or level-headed anymore. Your self-esteem is non-existent. They make you feel like you can't do any better and that you can't survive on your own, and so then you're stuck. I did try to leave many times. It took him going to jail. So it wasn't like I finally got the gusto and walked out. No, he was arrested and went to jail, and I was able to separate from him, obviously, because I wasn't in jail, and then end the relationship from a distance and then do it that way. So it's one of those things where I feel like if that hadn't happened, he quite possibly could have killed me, or we both would have ended up in jail. Like, it's one of those things where it wouldn't have ended well. So thankfully the outcome happened where he did go to jail, because he very well could have killed me. Like, that's a real thing that could have happened. So I'm thankful that he did go to jail. Now, it is hard for people to leave. Like, there were times where my phone would disappear, my car keys would disappear ahead of time. Like, he knew he was going to start a fight. He wanted to be able to victimize me. So my keys and my phone would disappear. So I physically couldn't call anybody. He would make it to where I physically couldn't leave. Because that's another thing. Like, why didn't you just walk out the door? Why didn't you call 911? That wasn't an option. And I think I hear a lot of people, like, you'll hear fights, down the street, and like, well, I'm not going to get involved. Do call. You don't know what situation they're in. And I realize nobody wants to be the person that snitches or calls the cops, but a lot of times I prayed that somebody would, because like I said, I wasn't physically able to because my phone would disappear. He knew he was going to start a fight, that he was going to get physical ahead of time. And so looking back, I can see all of these things now. So I feel like it's important, if you do hear something, if you do suspect something, if you can't talk to the person, just call the cops. Because the worst thing that's going to happen, if it's nothing, the cops are just going to go away, and, people are going to be mad, but at least people are still alive. Or if they're in a situation where they can't call, they may be grateful that you called. We live in a society where people don't want to get involved. And then there's also you're met with, well, why didn't you just leave sooner at the same time, kind of a thing. So I'm to the point where I'm like, call first. Like I said, best case scenario, It's nothing and the police go away. Worst case scenario, you've saved somebody's life. And don't pressure people. Like I was fortunate that I had some really good friends that were just supportive. They were just there because it is a difficult thing to hear over and over and over. And it's easy for you to tell somebody what they need to do, but it's not always easy for the person to realize that they need to do that. And that it's even harder for them to actually do it. So it's nice to have support and just be there, because the person will eventually realize that they need to leave. But they have to come to that realization on their own. You can't force somebody to make those kinds of decisions. And I do understand, like, if you have friends that are in those situations, sometimes you have to cut them off because you don't want to hear those things over and over and over, and they're not doing anything to help themselves. But with the psychological breakdown, it's not as easy to help yourself as you would think it should be. Like it took me a long time. I had to go to meetings. I had to go to therapy. I had support, and I'm not afraid to talk about it. I don't outwardly talk about it because of how it affects other people. Like, it makes people feel bad when you tell them, like, you've been in an abusive relationship. And then, I don't like to make people feel bad, but I'm not afraid to talk about it. I'm not embarrassed about it. I'm not ashamed. So I really feel like people should be more comfortable about talking about it, because I did make it out of it and have grown and am in a healthy relationship now. And so there's a lot of positives. I have had people come up and tell me that have also been in, bad relationships, that people tell them that, you're asking for it. You must seek these things out because you've been in multiple bad relationships. And I think it's important for people to realize, because that person's self-esteem is so low, unless they take measures to make their self-esteem better, their self-esteem is still going to be low. So then it's really easy for them to be preyed upon again and again and again, because these kinds of people seek people out that are damaged, that are wounded, that are easy to manipulate, that are easy to control. So if you're already damaged, it's easy for somebody else to prey upon that and come in and do the same things. And if your self-esteem is bad, you think, I deserve this, or you've gotten to a point where you're used to it, and so it's easy for you to fall back into that cycle of being victimized and abused. So I think it's important to be understanding. People don't seek out these kinds of relationships unless they're masochistic, and that's a whole nother thing. But it is possible for people to be in multiple abusive relationships back to back to back because of this happening. Like I said, if you don't take the steps that you need to work on yourself, and it's scary to be alone, and they make you feel like you can't be alone. So if you do get out of a bad relationship, you're like, I can't be alone. They've convinced you that you can't function by yourself. So then you're looking to jump into another relationship. And like I said, people that are abusers are very good at finding people to victimize. And they want people that are easy to victimize. So it is possible to be in multiple abusive relationships. Like I said, I posted a video when I first got out of the relationship on Facebook, and I had a lot of response from that video. And these were things that people were coming to me and telling me that they were asking for it, that they were seeking them out. So I wanted to kind of address that also, because that is something that does happen. And like I said, it's confusing for people that have never been in an abusive relationship and they don't understand it. So looking from the outside, I can see how people could think that, but just trying to clear up the misconceptions. So hopefully this helped a little bit. Please leave me a comment if you have any questions. I'm not afraid to answer anything. I'm not afraid to talk about anything. If anybody wants to know more specifics about what happened to me, feel free to leave comments. If you don't if you're, afraid to leave a comment, or, you have your own stuff you want to share, my email address will also be down below. Please email me. I have talked to several other victims before. I think it's important to be able to have somebody to share with and to talk about. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. This is a safe place, no judgments. Hopefully this video was informative and wasn't too depressing. Like I said, this is outside my normal content, but being October, I wanted to get this up before the month is over. If you are new to my channel, thank you so much for watching. Please hit that subscribe button, become a member of my family online, and I will see everybody in my next video. Thank you so much for watching.